Hi, I'm Kent. I'm going to give you a quick tour of my Paragon Caldera Kiln. So this is my kiln I picked up. I got it off of Facebook Marketplace. At the time, it was in a sealed factory box. It had never been used before. But looking at the date code, it's actually about 10 years old. So I was the first one to use it, even though it's not a new kiln. One of the reasons I got this was it was a small kiln. As you can see, it's actually pretty petite. The inside is about 8 by 8 by 6, I believe. So there's a space for some tiny pots, but nothing very large. Since I was just getting into pottery, I didn't want something too large. The other part is that this actually just plugs into a normal 110 outlet, as you can see up here. There's nothing else on the circuit. I made sure nothing else is plugged in. But it can actually just plug into a normal wall outlet. It doesn't need a 220 volt circuit. So the kiln itself, I put it on some concrete blocks. I didn't want it all the way on the ground, and I wanted to make sure that it wouldn't be too close to anything. The kiln is in 3 pieces. So there's a bottom piece here. It's actually sitting on a couple of blocks. And then there's the main unit where the controller is attached to. It actually has the thermocouple on the inside. And then there's the top, which is the lid. So the top of my kiln has this window in it. It was actually designed for glass making. I took down a ceramic brick. I got an additional one and cut it down and put it inside the lid so that the heat wouldn't come out of the lid. And I usually just leave an extra brick on top to help with the insulation. So I can take this off, show inside. So there's inside the lid. You can see the brick that I put in there. Set this off to the side. So here's looking down into my kiln. So at the bottom there's a kiln shelf I have. It's sitting on some 1-inch blocks. And you can see the thermocouple right there. You can actually lift the whole unit up to pull it out if you wanted to like vacuum out the bottom. I haven't done that. The elements, there's actually two rows of elements. They're actually right there. So they can heat up the inside of the kiln. So when I bought this kiln, it actually came with the expansion ring. So this actually sits right on top like that and gives me an extra few inches of height. There's actually a door in here, and again, this was because the kiln was designed for glass. But similar to the top, I modified it with a brick and put the high temperature cement in there so that it would not have the heat escape. This works pretty well. I've used it for several different firings, and I've tried it out to see how well it works. It gives me a few more inches so I can put some taller pots in. It doesn't give me any more space off to the side. What I use this most for is actually for bisque firing. It will fire to cone 06 no problem. So I can take some bone dry pots like this and then put them inside and stack them up. And since you can stack bone dry pots during a bisque firing, they can touch each other. I could actually get me a lot more pots into the bisque firing. I did try getting some kiln furniture and some kiln shelves and actually do a second level to do a normal cone 06, or sorry, to do a cone 6 firing. And it never got to temperature. It actually aired out. I think it was close, but didn't do it. Maybe I would have to cement together the different pieces, or maybe add a couple more bricks on the lid. I didn't try that. I wanted to be able to keep the kiln separate and pull it apart. So I really only used this expansion ring for bisque firings. So the kiln has a nice digital controller. You can turn it on here. If it gets turned off in the middle of the cycle, it'll air out. It'll let you know that it didn't actually complete. That's what that E3 means. So now it's idle. It's showing it's 86 degrees in the kiln. That's from the current thermocouple. I basically only use 2 different modes. So if you push start, it'll say cone, and then you can actually select start again, and now this is set for cone 06. It says the temperature is 1828. If I want to fire a pot, I can put it up to cone 6, which is where I fire, and it shows the temperature there of 2232. So I'll put it back on cone 06, and you can push start again. Speed, you can do fast, medium, and slow. I usually just leave it on medium, push start again. You can have it do a hold for the temperature. I don't ever bother with that. And then if I pushed start again, it would actually run the program. Here, there's actually a delay. So if you read really closely on the panel, it says delay is on this lower button. So if I push down once, now it goes into delay mode, and I can actually push this up, and this is in hours and minutes. So I can load the kiln, say, in the afternoon, and with my electrical rates, I get cheaper rates starting at midnight, so I can actually go ahead and delay it. So I can say, okay, I want it to start 5 hours and 45 minutes from now. Push start again. It's ready, so it's in the program mode. It's not in run. I've made that mistake once before. I thought it was actually going to go, and it hasn't running, so push start one more time. And now it says on, and it moved into run mode. So now the kiln's going to wait and count down until the delay is done, and it will actually start the program. I can stop that. If I wanted to, I could actually just start it right away. So I can go through cone 6 again, speed, hold, start, and it will actually just go ahead and start running. So you don't need to use the delay. It is a nice feature to have, though. So same thing, if I want to do cone 6, I push start, it's on cone, push start again, I go up to cone 6, and this will let me fire my glazes and get it all the way up to temperature. I could go ahead and start it immediately. Just wait a second and click, and you'll hear the relay click to turn on the elements. So there it goes, it's starting to fire. And if I let it run, it'll gradually get itself up to the temperature. I'll go ahead and stop that. And turn it back off. So I can show you how I load the kiln. So I'll take some pots and put them in and fill it up. I don't have actually many ready at this point. So I'll just put in a couple. Then I put on the lid. I usually have my brick up here. Then I'll turn it on, and then I will go and run it at cone 06 for a bisque fire, and go ahead and start it, and then it'll finish the bisque fire. I'm actually not going to finish that right now because I don't need to. And when I'm done, let it cool down. It shows me the temperature on the readout here, so I know when it's cool enough, and you can pull that out. And then you have your bisqueware. Similarly, if I was going to do a glaze firing, these are all ready, so I can go and put my pots in here, make sure they don't touch. About this size, I can usually get 3 in if I arrange them very carefully. Let me make sure they don't touch the wall. Actually, it looks like maybe I can only get 2. Usually I'll make some smaller, even smaller pots, so I can put those into the corners, but I don't have any of those glazed right now. So I'll just put those 2 in. Again, put on the lid. And then start it so I can actually fire it. These I'll actually fire later tonight, so I'll put on delay, and they'll be done tomorrow. The firing for bisque takes usually about, I think, around 10 hours, 9 or 10 hours. Depends if I'm using the fast mode or not. So I can start it, at midnight. It's done in the morning. And usually by mid-afternoon, it's cool. The cone 6 firing takes a little bit longer. I think it's closer to 12 hours to actually fire. And then it takes about that long to cool down as well. So it's almost a solid day from start to finish. So here are the pots I fired. These are fired to cone 6. You can see that the kiln is now complete. It took 11 hours and 34 minutes to fire to cone 6. And the current kiln temperature is 134 degrees. So the kiln's cooled off. It's still a little warm, but cold enough to handle. So let's unload the kiln and see what we got. So we put in 2 pots before. Here's the first one. Came up pretty well. And here's the other one. Nice blue and a nice purple. So I hope this walkthrough of my kiln, the Paragon Caldera, was useful. It's a great little kiln for firing of little pots. It's served me very, very well. Can get up to temperature and fire stoneware, no problems. If you have any questions, please drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.